Hi there, thanks for stopping by. It's so great to have you again. So basically today we are going to be talking about the 7 reasons why employers do not get back to you. So if you're a job seeker, or if you have been, or if you will be a job seeker, this is very important. My name is Hamza Zawali. I'm a career coach and I help people find better career opportunities basically. So what I do is I coach them through CV writing, job interview, through job search techniques, etc., etc. 7 reasons employers do not get back to you. Now, oftentimes as a job seeker, you probably experienced it when we send a lot of job applications and it just feels that no one gets back to us. It just feels so rude. And what I've seen in my experience with private clients, with my experience also as a recruiter, what I've seen is that oftentimes people lose self-esteem, they lose self-confidence, and they end up losing motivation for their job search. They suddenly believe that they are the problem because no one gets back to them, or very, very few people gets back to them. And this is something that's happening. This is something that you can't avoid. And this, this basically short presentation is really to tell you what's on the other side, the backstage is basically to see, for you to understand why is it that they're not getting back to you. Now, I'm talking from the point of view of a recruiter. I've been working with employers for 16, 17 years at the time of this video. So you can imagine that I do know what I'm talking about, and especially because I've worked across 3 continents. So small organizations, big organizations, these 7 reasons are always the same. They're always the same. So let's begin. According to a study, 80% of job seekers just mentioned that this is the most irritating thing in their job search, not getting any response, any feedback for the job application. So imagine you spend hours and hours and hours doing your CV. You really, do everything you can so that it looks good. You also spend hours with sort of personalizing and adapting perhaps your job application email or job application forms, and then silence. And, oftentimes when I hear my clients, they sometimes say, my private clients, they sometimes say, hey, Hamza, I really don't understand this attitude. It only takes a minute to send an email back, to reply, to give a phone call. Why are they not doing it? Talking about recruiters, of course. Or sometimes even people feel that recruiters are just so unprofessional. Now, I understand, I really do understand why some people would think this way, because it's so much hard work to actually finalize your CV and you want to at least have an answer, at least have someone that tells you, no, it's not what we're looking for, but thanks. And this is done more and more, but more often than not, there's no responses. So I want to sort of take you from your situation perhaps as a job seeker to a situation where you become a recruiter. Because the more you understand what's on the other side, and the more hopefully you're not going to take it personally. You're not going to feel demotivated. Motivation in your job search is perhaps the number 1 most important skill, or not skill, I would say the number 1 most important energy that will keep you going, that will keep you going despite failures, despite rejection, despite silence. So the purpose of this video is to make sure that you understand where, what's happening on the other side, so that you realize, hopefully, that there's absolutely nothing personal, that you should not lose confidence or self-esteem. So that's my purpose today. First thing first, oftentimes people see recruitment agencies or recruiters working in agencies, as people that find jobs. They sometimes send, their CV, for example, to myself or to my team or to, other recruiters, and they say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Yeah, that's nice. But remember that the job of a recruiter is not to find jobs for people, but to find people for jobs. It's very, very different. So your level of expectation needs not to be that, hey, he's going to work for me. In fact, the recruiter works for his client, works for the employer, because it's the employer that pays him. So first of all, let's get sort of our expectation to the right, on the right, on the right track. Recruiters don't work for you; they work for the employers, and their job is to find people. So you're not the only one. You're not the only one. Their loyalty goes to their employer. This is where they make their living. Okay, so that's just a fact. Now, where does sort of the candidate sit into this? It sits in a situation where the recruiter, in order to make a placement, in order to be successful, needs the candidate, and the candidate needs the contact, the business development that the recruiter has done in order to acquire this vacancy. So it's a win-win relationship, but it's not an exclusive relationship. In the same way that you are not going to stop at one job, you're also going to try different jobs. You're also going to try different recruiters. The recruiter will be also doing the same. Okay, so that's number one. Okay, now let's start with the 7 reasons why employers do not get back to you. So reason number one, they don't have time. Now, you've heard this before, but perhaps what I would like to suggest is that maybe you didn't understand it the way it should be understood. When I say that recruiters don't have time, you have to imagine that in most companies, the HR department is not seen as a department that generates revenue. It's seen as a department that costs money, that is supportive, obviously, over the rest of the company, that supports the rest of the company, but that costs money, that doesn't necessarily generate money. Now, I don't agree with that, by the way. I really don't agree with that, because the very people that can find the people that can completely transform a company or propel a company to the next level are the HR people. So they are very much revenue generating. The type of people that they get in, also the image that they portray of their company to the outside world is extremely important, and is also contributing to the marketing, to the brand perception of the company. So that aside, just keep in mind that the HR department is not seen as a revenue generator department. Okay, so as such, budgets are always systematically, and the recruitment team is oftentimes understaffed. They are not going to go wide and large when it comes to recruiting recruiters. So basically, what you have to understand, for having worked with HR personnel for 16-17 years now, there's no return on investment metrics that is measured against recruiters replying to job applicants. In fact, when recruiters reply to job applicants, there's actually no return on investment whatsoever. And the HR department, the number one purpose of a HR manager or director is to consistently prove that yes, we cost money, but look at the return on investment. And the main KPIs, for example, for recruiters is the time to fill a vacancy and the cost to fill a vacancy. So you see, there's no KPI, for example, for, hey, I've responded to all the applicants. Now, thanks to ATSs, applicant tracking systems, things are done automatically. That is, if people or companies, organizations have taken time to customize that ATS in order to send these messages, okay? But more often than not, companies do not reply. Okay, so what you have to understand is that recruiters are understaffed, and that there's absolutely no measure or KPI or sort of return on investment KPI to basically say, hey, I've answered and replied to all of the candidates. The recruiter will not see any benefit internally. It's the way HR departments are. Because HR departments are always trying to prove that they deserve an investment, that there is a return on investment. So they focus on the important thing. That's the number one reason. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is right. This is how it should be. I'm saying this is how it is. There's a very different thing. Please don't obviously a comment saying, yeah, it's unacceptable that you say this. That's not my opinion. I'm only saying this is how it is in recruitment recruitment teams with employers. Okay. Reason number two is that in order for recruitment to happen, you usually need decision makers. You usually need interviewers, and these interviewers, these interviews come on top of a busy agenda. So, they are busy every single day. They have emergencies. They have to travel. They have, a lot of things to do, a team to attend, etc., etc. But you know what? On top of this, recruiting someone often comes as an extra bit of work, okay? And this is why things can be slow. On top of this, please keep in mind that executives can travel, that if you have, for example, a 3-stage interview process, then perhaps one of the person is on holiday. Perhaps one of the person is on holiday and is only coming back in 2 weeks' time. Perhaps another one of, is not getting back to them because he's traveling, is super busy, he forgot. And the job of a recruiter is always to remind them, but at the same time, not to bug them because they are busy executives. So you can imagine that this is obviously taking, making the recruitment process longer than what perhaps the HR department wanted, okay? So remember, there's several people involved, and there needs to be not only time for interviews, but also at the end, you have to run after them and ask them about their feedback, whether we shortlist or not. And sometimes some interviewers, some of these decision makers, they're saying, hey, give me some time, I need to think about it. So what do you do then? That is also why things take time, okay? So just hopefully remember, I'm only trying to put you in the recruitment sort of department here so that you see things from a different perspective and you can hopefully understand how things take time. Reason number 3 is that if you're the first to be interviewed, then you might be waiting for a while because no recruitment will stop at one candidate. Even if you've done well, interviewers, decision makers, etc., will want to see more candidates. So let's say, for example, you're in a situation where perhaps if you're in a market where there's not many profiles like yours, then you might wait a long time before they find better profiles. Let's say also that perhaps one member of the recruitment team is on holiday or things like that. All this adds up and actually extends the recruitment process. So if you're the first one to be interviewed, sometimes you'll need to wait a few weeks before they finish the recruitment. And for you, it would look like, oh my God, it's been 6 weeks. Oh my God. But for the last one that's been interviewed, he will probably have an interview or a response after a week. So it depends on also where you are at with this, what sort of, when do you enter the recruitment process, okay? Reason number 4, remember 7 reasons. Reason number 4 is that sometimes those managers, those heads of departments that are recruiting for their team, sometimes they change their mind. Sometimes they meet, say, a few candidates, and then they say, no, we can't do that. I have a better situation here. I have a better, proposal or suggestion because I've interviewed a few people, but since there's no one, for example, since this role is vacant, perhaps we could change it a little bit, make it also include this responsibility or give this responsibility to someone else. And this is how, by meeting people, sometimes they change their mind. This is how, by meeting people, sometimes they change the job description or the type of person that they actually want. And this is also happening. So this means that the recruitment team is going to have to re-update the job description, update the recruitment companies, re-update the job adverts, and start the process all over again. It happened to me. You see, I had to recruit people for my team, and after actually seeing what was happening in the market, I was like, we can't get that, because what we projected in terms of budget for this role is actually attracting very weak candidates. We need to increase the budget. And if we increase the budget, we're actually going to make sure that they know this and know that and know this. Or sometimes someone would leave or would be terminated, and you would want to use this experience to actually change the job advert, to actually change the role responsibility. Well, this means that you need to go through a bit of bureaucracy here to basically make sure everything is documented and part of the process. So people change their mind. Sometimes they meet people and they change their mind. Okay, so this is a completely natural thing. You can't stop it. It's not your fault. It has nothing to do with you, but this is also happening. Okay, as a recruiter, it happened to me so many times. Reason number 5, and it's frustrating, by the way, for recruitment agencies. It's so frustrating because you've just spent hours and hours and hours recruiting people. When clients change their mind, it's their right. But it's frustrating for recruiters as well, for everyone involved, because these hours of work are gone. Okay. Reason number 5, if you're the first to be interviewed, okay, if we talked about this actually, if you're the first interviewed, so sometimes, actually, sorry, the title is wrong here. What I wanted to put here is if, sometimes, for example, there's a resignation. Okay. So if a candidate that is critical, or an employee that is critical to the role, is resigning, okay? And at the same time, they were recruiting for your role, okay, for the role you applied to. Well, when these things happen and there's suddenly an emergency, i.e., oh my God, we lost the head of sales, and without that, we're going to be without head of sales, and our sales might go down, then this takes priority. Suddenly everything stops, and the HR manager or director is going to speak to his recruitment team and he's going to say, hey, stop everything. We need to replace this person. He submitted his resignation this morning. Quick, you stop everything. So suddenly those priorities change. And for you that don't know this, suddenly you happen to wait for many weeks before they get back to you. That's because their priorities changed, okay? And of course, they're not going to tell you, hey, we're not going to get back to you for a few weeks now because we just started, we have an emergency. No, they won't. They'd rather make you wait. They hope that you will wait, but that's just something that happens. They don't want to make you wait. It's just something that happens. They don't control this. Sometimes when there's an employee, a profile that's really critical for the role, for the company that resigns, you stop everything, it's emergency mode, and recruiters are asked to obviously focus on this role. That's also something that happens. That's reason number 5. Reason number 6, an internal candidate becomes suitable. I don't know if you knew that, but according to a study that was conducted in the US actually, but that gives you an idea of that these things are happening. 14%, that's 14% of advertised roles are filled internally. So, HR looked at internal resources, they don't see anyone, and then they advertise the role out there, obviously wide open, for the general public. They start receiving, applications, and suddenly one of the employee of the firm looks at this role and goes and speaks to his manager and say, hey manager, I've been here for a while. I would love to apply to this role. I saw it online. And the manager speaks to HR, etc., etc. And this happens as well. Now, when this happens, oftentimes the internal candidate is given precedence. The internal candidate is given priority. Why? Because they know him. They know his background. It's less risky. Plus, they want to make sure that people evolve. When there's an opportunity for people to evolve, they want to make sure that, they retain their people. Okay? So, of course, this is how, if they find someone internal, they're going to go through the interviews, they're going to go through all of these things, and in the meantime, you're going to be waiting, and it's going to be silent for you, no feedback at all. Okay? That's also something that happens very, very often. So, final reason, normal reluctance to give bad news. Sometimes people have interviews, people send their job application, the CV is awful. There's, the job application email doesn't look good, or the interview didn't go well, or simply there was a candidate that was stronger. You know what? No one likes to give a phone call to every candidate and give them the bad news of the day. this is not something that people enjoy. And somehow, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, but somehow it became the norm. Because recruiters are thinking, hey, if I don't get back to them, they will understand. And that's a disease. That's terrible to think that, because people think that they are the problem, that they don't count, that they don't matter, that they lose their self-confidence and they feel rejected or ignored. And recruiters, on the other hand, they just found someone that's better. That's all. There's nothing better for them. Okay, there's nothing that is actually negative on you, right? And yet recruiters just don't want to call people to give them bad news. So oftentimes, unfortunately, what they do is that they don't call them. They don't call them because it's human nature. We as humans find it hard to break, the news and say, basically just to announce, to be the bearer of bad news. We really do find it hard as recruiters. And as humans in general, look at you, for example. When there's a bad news, you tend to avoid it. You tend to resist it. You tend to, only if it's really necessary that you say it. But in this case, recruiters don't feel it's necessary, because the recruiters say, in their mind, well, you are applying to other jobs. So if I don't get back to you, you're probably going to find another job, which is wrong. I'm not defending any of these, by the way. I'm just giving you the reasons of what's happening, okay? It's not what should happen, it's what is happening, that's all. And I'm not saying this is happening in every single company and every recruiter is like that, but these are the 7 reasons that oftentimes, explain why people don't get back to you. And remember, we started this short course on why, on the fact that, some job seekers feel, rejected, ignored, and they lose confidence, they lose self-esteem. It can go as far as giving up on their job search because they completely lost motivation. And I want to say to you, if you look at these 7 reasons, it has nothing to do with you. Oftentimes is recruiters, the way they think. Oftentimes it's internal things that are happening or not happening, but it has nothing to do with you. You matter. Without you, you wouldn't be giving or have an opportunity to give and help others, because the job is at the end of the day is an opportunity for you to actually help others. That's what being fulfilled at the job means. And I want you to really truly believe that we need you. Everyone needs you. Without you, you're depriving a company, people, clients, suppliers, managers, etc., from your talent, from your energy, from your attitude. Please don't lose confidence in your job search. Please don't lose motivation. On my end, I know that people that just don't give up, that keep on going, as long as you do it the right way. If you have the right CV, of course, if you have, the right approach, etc., you will find work, and you find a great work. Of course, absolutely. The reason people don't get back to you has nothing to do with you. So keep going, because it's not personal. It has nothing to do with you. Remember, these people, these recruiters, employees, they don't know you. How can they reject you? You can reject CVs. You can only slow things down. You can only do what you can. And this is human. It would be, unfair for me to tell you, oh, companies are very well organized and everyone is this and no, but the truth is these 7 reasons apply to most companies. And I wanted to shoot this video because there's so much frustration out there. There's so much us against them. Remember what we said, when people say, oh, it only takes 1 minute, people are so unprofessional. Not really. Remember, the HR department is super duper unstaffed. It's really, their main purpose is to consistently prove that they are doing a massive return on investment. So it means that the recruiters, being understaffed, are so crazy busy. Remember, hundreds of applications, sometimes more, every single day, okay? Interviewers are busy. Remember, reason number 2, interviewers are busy. Okay, so yes, there needs to be several interviews, several managers, and they're not available anytime. They also have travels, holidays, they also have their emergencies, etc., etc. And even when they are available for interviews, you know what happens? They sometimes need more time to think about it. How can we blame them? Okay, this is why this also extends the length of the recruitment process. Also, reason number 3, if you are the first to be interviewed, remember, if you're the first to be interviewed and they just started the recruitment process, then you might be waiting a long time before they actually get enough candidates, interview more people, etc., etc. For you, it will seem long. Number 4, they change their mind. They meet someone, they change their mind. Okay, and that happens. They change the scope of the job, they change whatever. Okay, reason number 5 is that the priority suddenly changes. You know, a big resignation, for example, a resignation from someone that's really critical to a company would push recruiters to stop, put on hold any recruitment and refocus on the emergencies. Of course. Reason number 6, internal candidate became suitable. And that happens, of course, the recruitment process is going to slow down or stop until we decide whether this internal candidate is good for the role or not. Okay, the normal reluctance of people to give bad news is also part of it. So for all of these reasons, as you can see, there's nothing that is your fault here. Okay, the only thing that's your fault is if you don't have a good CV, is if you don't have a good job application, if your attitude is not great, if you don't prepare for your interviews, if you don't do things right, then that's fine. You should prepare. That's your job to prepare. There's no one else that's going to do it for you. But apart from that, if everything looks fine, if people are excited about your CV, if really you feel that, wow, you're the candidate, but it's taking much longer than you expected, no, it's not your fault. There's you know, just keep going. And please don't hesitate. Obviously, if you have any question, just add them on the comment. I would love it if you find this video useful to job seekers. If you find this paradigm shift, this sort of perspective, different perspective, important in someone's job search, please like it. Please help me, be noticed by YouTube and Facebook, etc. by simply like it or share it. That would be amazing. If you do have any question, please add it to the comment. Add it to the comment. Every now and then I go back to the comment and I do answer comments. Okay, so don't hesitate. I want to say thank you so much. Again, my name is Hamza from nameyourcareer.com, nameyourcareer.com. And until next time, next video, I will wish you all the best in your job search and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.